Hey y'all, how y'all doing? So I was just gonna do a quick video on the difference between a managed wood, which you see there, and unmanaged wood, which you can tell from that big wall of green. So first thing we'll do is run into this managed wood and just show you a couple basic things. So let's set this here. By the way, this is a woodsman's best friend. If you're going to be cleaning stuff up, especially once you've got everything established and all that, this is a good way to go. It's a bill hook. This is an old, really beat up one, and that zip tie I just found on the floor and tied it on here. It's not actually doing anything, but with these things, let's see if I can find a vine to show you on. But you can let's see here, you can use this to pull vines out of trees, which is a very good habit to keep up, where if they're already off the tree like this, you can get behind them, and then if you're sharpening your tools like you should be, you just pull up and it'll cut that. Otherwise, you can use it rather than having to bend down here with a knife and chop at the bottom. You can just stand here, and if you can time that right, like that, I like to do a little chop, and then you take the tip. Let's see if we can see. There we go. You just pop out that little section. That ought to kill the roots and the rest of the vine. Anyway, these things are best friends. If you're gonna be working out here in the woods, you're gonna set it in this old stump. But yeah, okay, so a couple things to realize here. You see very little shrubbery. I selectively left a few, like up here. This is like a little naturally cut ravine. It's not very deep. It's like 4 feet at the deepest, but I've been slowly filling that up with all the dead wood that falls. Here's a shallower one. You can see an example here, and as this breaks down, it'll kind of fill in and flatten out the landscape a little bit, because it's really fast place to twist an ankle here. Anyway, so I leave the shrubs in and around those ravines just to keep shade on it, and to keep basically just break it all down as fast as possible. Anyway, most of what you're going to be finding is small woody plants like this. So you see it's woody at the base, but this is all green enough that I could just pull it off with my fingers. Then you're going to be finding some shade tolerant plants like these. I really only ever see these in the woods here. I never see them in the fields. And then some field grasses that get pooped out by birds and find their way in here for one reason or another. That's a smaller grain. If I come down here, you'll see some bigger grain. I think this is a wheat variety. If you listen closely, you can hear all the turkey in the field over there. They're upset that I'm in their house. Anyway, yeah, so there's some grass. Anyway, so that's a good little forest floor. It's a good thing to see. This is really like where you're gonna see a lot of grazing. Both with turkeys and if you've got a good amount of oaks and things, which I'm trying to find you some good examples of different trees. Anyway, with a managed wood, what you're really going to want to do is leave a little bit of standing dead wood. The rest you're going to want to fill in ravines with, or make some kind of small habitats. Like you could just pile up some wood and let rabbits live there, and kind of like just clean it up like this. So see, there's a tree that's died, and you can see around it, right? So you can see there all the sticks and things have cast a little bit of a shadow, but in a circle around that dead tree, light's getting in, and so you can see here a lot lusher green than back in there in the shade. So this lets a lot of nice vegetative green growth come up, where you can get deer browse, or if you're blessed enough to be around elk, you can get some elk coming in. Here's a good example of some of this very weedy grass. But yeah, so you're gonna want a little bit of sunlight, and again, this is all in a managed wood where you can control things. You're gonna want to, if you can, if you have the time and patience to do this, it's gonna be good to put in some nut trees. So good examples would be really any kind of oak, but bur oak have good acorns for turkey. Hickory will attract some squirrels and some deer. If you've got native fruit like pawpaw and maybe some non-native fruit like apples and things that you're willing to just let fall and be eaten, that's a good way to attract wildlife. So like here's an example where I've left a shrub in between these bushes to kind of give a little bit of a block to vision and make deer and things seem a little more comfortable. The main goal here is looks, so you can see, you can look out onto the fields and everything and see for a good ways here, and that's really what the boss wanted. Let's see, somewhere here I believe I saw a hickory, but I've lost it. Anyway, hickories are another native nut that are good. They will, you can see here, deer have been laying down and bedding. They will bed in fields, but they're way more comfortable doing it in woods. So you're gonna want some land like this, again with some fruit and nut trees if possible, and just give them a place to browse. But yeah, most of your basic stuff is gonna be upkept with this. Another good thing, I always carry some kind of buoy on me. I really like these, the K-bars, just because if it's raining or something and it's wet, and K-bar does make plastic handled knives, and I'm not a fan of those. Given all the crap I've had to do, leather's just the way to go. You can be in mud, blood, guts, grease, oil, whatever, and you'll keep a grip on that thing. Anyway, wood also is good for that. So this is a more unmanaged wood. So you can see here, kind of close to this little tractor trail, is somewhat grassy, and it's been cut once or twice, but for the most part it looks like this, which is just shrub, thick shrub. And this is good for deer to hide in and evade predators. We don't have too many coyotes and such here, but so some years we've got more than others. It really depends on how many dogs kill coyotes and not. There's more and more neighborhoods coming up around the area, unfortunately, and with more neighborhoods there's more dogs, and there are some yappy dogs that probably get eaten, but there's also a lot of big old German shepherds and such that'll tear a coyote in half in a second. Anyway, to make a long story short, good evasion of predators. There is even good browse here. So you see this little woody shrub coming up, and it's got these really green new growth. The deer will happily chomp that. It isn't just about deer though. The hen turkey will like to hide in here, and I'm pretty sure they lay in the brushland. I really only ever see them in the fields with their young, trying to find some food. I've never seen them in the woods with their young, but then again, with how much noise I make in the woods, they're probably long gone by the time I get there. Anyway, some basic things to consider is if you're gonna have an unmanaged area, it's still probably a good idea to get rid of things like this. That ivy is about, see it go all the way up there, it's probably 40 feet, I guess, maybe 30, somewhere in that area. And that'll kill trees pretty quickly. You wouldn't think it that big a deal, but choking out that sunlight is fatal, especially when you see how straight that tree is. That means that we're in like a late stage of growth, maybe mid to late stage of growth here. So there we go. That tree, see how it's kind of spread out? That's an earlier tree. Kind of same with this one. If you see him, he's pretty straight, but he also forks quite a bit, that walnut there. This guy's what? An Osage? Something. Yeah, I think that's a Osage. He's pretty new to this whole thing, right? So he's gonna grow straight up, otherwise he's gonna get choked out quick, fast, and in a hurry. So you may want to manage that. I would also look for things like this that I'm about to show you. They're essentially large mushrooms, and it's a pretty good sign that your tree is either dead or dying. And I've noticed them a lot where I am in the like southeast, kind of like the Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina area. There's a lot of Osage left here. Excuse me. There's a lot of Osage left here from settlers and stuff. This place has been a this particular property has been a homestead in one form or another for the last 200 years easily. There's a carved stone here with a date checkered into it, I believe like 1786 or like 1813, something like that. It's pretty old. Anyway, those toadstool mushrooms there. Get a better view. Let's see if I can focus that. It's hard to see, but basically you see trees like that, they're pretty much on their way out from what I've seen. Only ever seen them on hackberry and osage. I'm sure they grow on others. There's another one there. Kind of hard to see right there. Anyway, you can take those and do what's called a hinge cut, which is where you basically come in with a chainsaw like that, let it fall. The canopy, right, all that big branching brushiness falls down and provides a good little shelter for the deer to hide in. Those are really good to have. Another good thing is spending some time in an unmanaged wood, and you can start finding things like this. So if you see, sorry about that, something scared the shit out of me. There's a squirrel running overhead. You see like that deer trail coming through, and you can actually follow those, and they'll usually lead you to like fruit trees and such. But I believe right there's a hickory. Maybe very young hickory. Anyway, these are really majestic, beautiful places to be. Again, I would say none of your woods should be completely unmanaged, but some of them should be more wild like this. I mean, I'm standing one of the few spots that I'm actually able to even stand up in without having to like hold aside branches, and that's a good thing for deer. I mean, there could be a deer on the other side of that bush and I don't really know if he blew at me. You can see there's a large tree that's dead that way. That's really good for like woodpecker. They'll go in there and bore holes looking for insects and larvae and such. And last time I checked and read on it, those woodpecker burrows were responsible for like 37 different species. Like they relied on woodpeckers. So it's good to leave some standing dead wood. You probably don't want a whole lot because you can use a lot of that for, you know, fruit trees and other such things if you get it out of the way. But good idea. This is a very small and very young black walnut, at least a walnut. I can't see the parent tree, so I'm not sure if it's a black walnut, but it is a walnut variety. Beautiful smell, and that's what the squirrels are going after. Trying to think of some other native things you can find. Oh yeah, there'll be blueberries and grapes are native to the US, so if you're lucky you can find some of those. But again, going along with that idea of having a wild but not entirely unmanaged wood, you could plant some varieties of a thing. Here's an example of something beautiful. I would get rid of this and replace it with a blueberry bush because it's not native. But this honeysuckle, check this out. You got something's been rubbing up on that. I don't see any obvious signs of what, but there's no machines, no people back here, so some kind of animal's been having a field day. And yeah, here's another part. You can see the change in, what do you call that? The change in bark. You can see how warm that is. That's something scratching. Anyway, just little things like that. Those are the two major differences. Is your cleared wood's going to be much more focused on grassy undergrowth and kind of like grazing, whereas a unmanaged to like minimally managed wood is going to be much more focused on like evasion and shelter and potential nursery locations for young. You can also have a higher diversity of life in there. So, you know, while a hen turkey might be real comfortable running through there and, you know, scratching the undergrowth and looking for grubs and acorns, deer are not going to want to spend a whole lot of time in that because it's pretty open. Now, it's not like a field, you know, but in the same way that they don't hang around in fields for too long, you won't find them in here for the, you know, the whole day. They're going to want to hang out mostly back in there. So this is good for grazing. but there's pros and cons to each. I suggest having a little bit of both. And again, try and leave some standing deadwood. Supports a lot of life, but also, you know, you can see, oh, another quick thing, some noticing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up on the hill, if you'll believe me, 5 and 6 trees right there are all osage that have died. So I don't know what's going on, if there's some kind of fungus going around, some like, you know, like the ash borer beetle, something like that, you know, whatever it is, there's something going around killing a lot of the osage here. And it's strange because I see a lot of young healthy osage and a lot of old healthy osage and a little bit in between, but there's also a lot that's dying. So it seems to be affecting, you know, I don't know how many different varieties of osage there are, probably not many if I had to guess, but I don't know if it's just one whole variety that's dying off, or it's just you know, something or other. For one reason or another, that's that. So I may have to figure, you know, as far as I know, I think osage might be a nitrogen fixer. If not, it's a black locust. But yeah, you know, I have to keep some in mind to replace that. So just keep things like that in mind while you're walking around. This, you can tell from the bark, was a hackberry. So I've noticed that the same fungi, here's a good view of one right there. The same fungi that I noticed on the dead osage are on the dead hackberry, or dying hackberry and dying osage. I don't see them on any other trees. So I think it might be a fungal issue, but again, I'm not sure. It's just something to notice. So if you're walking around and you see that big old mushroom growing on the side, it might be time to start thinking about what you can replace that with. And again, I'd look at some kind of utility tree, whether it's you know, an osage that'll give you lots of hardwood for fires, or same thing with like locust, or a fruit or nut tree or something. Just, you know, keep things like that in mind, because you never know when you may have to replace it. Anyway, just a couple thoughts on the woods while I was walking.